I'd like to welcome back Richie, Mehta, the director of the film, and also Beverley, the editor of the film. So firstly, thank you very much for joining us this evening, and thank you for letting us screen this beautiful film. I guess I'd like to start at the beginning. Could you tell us a little bit about how this project came to be and how you personally got involved with it as well?
Sure. So it wasn't my idea. It was, again, it was the next in the series of films, of in-a-day films. And before I get into all that stuff, I just want to also introduce somebody in the audience who worked on the film a great deal, Josh Melia. He was one of the assistant editors. I cannot give enough credit to Josh and the team of assistant editors as well, because conforming the footage, which was shot on every possible format and frame rate you can imagine, and making it all kind of cohesive technically, was a bit of a nightmare task, and Josh was really one of the experts on it. So just wanted to thank Josh for the work and for So yeah, in terms of the project, again, Life in a Day was the kind of the film that began it all 6 years ago. And that was the whole world participating. And so this was kind of the next in the series. India was something that couldn't have been done 6 years ago. I think India is in a position right now where people do have access to technology all over the country, which they didn't have even 5 years ago. So Google, originally it was YouTube and Scott Freefilm, Scott's company, that conspired to do the first one. And for this edition, it was at Google because Google had bought out YouTube, and they wanted to do it, and they had a particular interest in India, so they conspired to do it. And then somebody had recommended me, and based on my previous work, which was very India-centric. So they got Jack Arbuthnot, one of the producers, got a hold of my films, Indian films. Saw the work, called me up, said, do I want to do this? I didn't tell him that I would do it for free, but I would have, happily, because this is a dream project for me. And it was accumulation of ideas I've been working on for decades, just in terms of trying to wrap my head around what this country is. So it landed on my lap, and I happened to be free. I was probably the only director, just wasn't busy, who also had India on his or her resume. And then you were free too, I guess.
I was free.
Yeah. So I do want to come on to the editing, but I first want to ask how you kind of went about spreading the word about the project within India, and how you got so many people to submit their day to you.
Yeah, that was probably one of the reasons they got me on board, because I don't know. Just for the time. Because I had worked so much in India and worked so much in Mumbai, particularly within the film industry there. So they, when we called up Anurag Kashyap, who's kind of a really well-known Indian director, who's a friend of mine, and same thing, I told him, I'm doing this, do you want to be involved? He's like, yep, absolutely. And what that meant was he would do call-out videos in the media, mainstream media there, also just posting online to get people to mobilize to shoot their day. And then we got a few other directors, Zoya Akhtar, Arbalki, and Shekhar Kapoor, Shekhar, of course, who we know from Elizabeth and several other Hollywood films, but also very well known in India. So these other directors also did call-out videos. I did some videos. Nobody knows who the hell I am in India. But I was, kind of supporting the push, and then we did just a lot of press. The interesting aspect of the blitz that you do is that it's only 9 days prior, or 10 days prior.
Right.
So October 10th is the shoot date. October 1st, we announced the project existed. And you just do 10 days because you don't want people to prepare so much. You don't want people to overthink it. You just want people to do it. And so press all over the country in that way. And I mean, there's a lot of footage. Even, I know specifically, we call them the Kardashians, the family with the crisps and the argument with the daughter. That guy, he even says on camera, we didn't have it say it in the film, but he even says before, at the very start of this footage, that I was actually going to work today, but then because Google put on their Google India homepage,
Right.
film your day. And they did it for 10 days prior, so anyone in India who went on Google would see on the homepage, film your day, this is what's happening. And that was the day of. And he said, I just saw this. I was going to work, but I'd rather do this. So let us see what my family is doing in my home. And he just made it up as he went. And a lot of people did that. So that was part of the blitz of just don't overthink it, just do it.
Amazing. And Beverley, how do you approach a project like this with so much footage?
I don't think either of us really knew, or none of us on the team really knew how to approach it, or what to expect, or how much footage we would get. We were, I think, shocked and amazed by how much we had, and I think it was really a case of just sort of sitting down and just sort of getting used to the material as it came in. I mean, it wasn't like it all landed on our laps in one day. It took several weeks, in fact,
Months,
up until Christmas. So it was about 8 weeks for all of the material to finally hit us. And in fact, when we came back in January, we thought we'd seen most of everything, and then we hit this rich seam of new footage that came. So it was a continual process. And I think at some point we just decided we just had to dive in and start cutting, because otherwise we wouldn't have a film. And you know, the producers were circling around us, Cassandra there, wanting to see some cuts. And so we just, in the end, we dived in knowing that the material would still come, and that at some point we'd have to stop. And meanwhile, the team, Josh and the rest of the team, were, you know, technically working on everything, because we also knew that at a certain point, once we'd locked the cut, that we would then have to do this big technical exercise and push this amazing thing out, which I think, how many were there? 70 different speeds, or I mean, how many different different files were there?
Yeah.
Loads, masses. It was a big undertaking.
I mean, just to add to that, I mean, in terms of the actual construction of what the film became, it was a matter of, we had 15 researchers, we called them, who would watch all the footage, and they would rate the footage, and then that footage would come to us rated. We would watch the best stuff, we would watch very much the worst stuff too, to make sure things weren't slipping through the cracks. We would then meet every week and reevaluate our rating system of evaluation, so that, because it was an organic process of what actually constitutes good footage. Some of the best footage we thought was technically probably shot the worst, and that's not something you'd catch on initially. Also, a lot of the footage is out of order, so you would find something that in and of itself as a clip it has no meaning to it, and we would say this is a discarded clip. And then you see something else which is quite similar, and you see this has something, and then you click on the user, and you see that the person submitted 500 clips. And you realize, my God, this person was trying to tell us something. They went out of their way, shot hours and hours and hours about somebody else, not even themselves. And then it becomes this mystery of deciphering what is this person's trying to show us, this mini documentary. And so then it became just discussions. We would have so many discussions about, what is this individual story? What does it say about the bigger picture? It was just, we were just trying to reflect honestly what was being thrown at us.
In fact, that's how the Priya story, the lady who's telling us about her day through the bars of her balcony. That story actually, I think
The whiskey-
did we get?
the whiskey shot was
the
first.
whiskey, yeah, the shot at the end where she's talking about the four whiskeys talking. That was the clip that we saw first, and I was very intrigued by that. And we then looked for all the rest of her material. And in fact, she only submitted about
6 clips.
6 clips, and I think we've used 5 of them. It was really a process of discovery, and I think she's a real standout character, and I think it was, you know, after a while I suppose you got used to sort of seeing where the stories might be, where they might lead. But some people, as you say, you know, they put in an enormous amount of footage. They were shooting all day, and they really had stories to tell. So it was incredible.
And we just keep going off. We just showed the film in India, which was really an amazing treat. And I didn't tell you, one guy came up to me and said, you know, you have my clip in the film. And I said, oh, what's your clip? We don't know who these people are. We know their footage intimately. He's like, oh, I shot the kid on the horse. The kid just riding by on the horse. I'm like, that's amazing. Did you shoot anything else? He's like, nope. I'm like, so you're 1-to-1, like everything you gave us, we put in the film. I just did that one clip, and that was amazing, I gave it to you. So he's, you know, batting 1,000 in baseball terms.
Amazing. I'm going to open it out in a moment, but I just wanted to ask one last question. There's a lot of different themes that kind of recur throughout the film, and one that really stood out to me was kind of gender roles, and I wondered if that's something that you expected when you were going into the project, or something that really surprised you with the footage that you got.
I mean, obviously we didn't want to put our own stuff onto this, right? We wanted to reflect what was given to us. I suspected a lot of major issues would be tackled, like development, like the idea of economics and class, like gender. I didn't realize it would be expressed in such a clever way. I think a lot of people were very creative and very heartfelt about what they were trying to do without kind of beating you over the head. So that came across. What I think what I found, what we've definitely found very interesting was some of the key stories in the film about men were shot by women. And you don't see those women. And so then that begs the entire question, obviously, of a point of view of gays, which I think is far more pertinent to what this is. Like the farmer story, which I think, became a backbone of the film. It's something that we all responded to. And that was led by a woman. It was a male and female filmmaker, but the woman was really leading it. And if you watch all 10 hours or 12 hours of footage, you see them and you hear them talking about what they're doing, and she's directing the whole thing. And there's a reason she chose these people. And whatever that point of view is, we don't need to necessarily comment on it, it's there in the film, but I think I found that very moving, and I think it was an interesting relationship we had actually going into it as well, because obviously you brought something that I certainly couldn't have.
Well, certainly early on I was very interested, just from a personal point of view, to see how the technology, the fact that people all had phones and that phones were capable of making great pictures, and that what the diversity of people who would upload footage would be, and actually initially, and it actually didn't relate to the thing as a whole, but certainly as they came to us, it was principally men on the streets at night, young boys out, filming themselves, having a great time, and there wasn't really a sort of sense of women being very visible, and I was slightly concerned that perhaps women weren't photographing themselves and that we wouldn't see it, and then it just so happened that it started to come in, and there was a lot, and it was really intriguing to see that we were getting these really personal views from women who for the first time were able to film themselves going about their business, shooting things that were important to them. It wasn't up to anyone else to film them, they were filming themselves, and so it was really fabulous to see all that come in, and a great many of the really good ones are here. That was very encouraging for me anyway, personally.
So do we have any questions from the audience? Yep, one at the back, if you just want to talk loudly.
Hi, I have two quite short questions. The first one is, how did you choose the day that you used? And secondly, I know you said that you've done it 6 years later than the first film, as it's kind of developed and more people have access to technology, but was there any way that you went around trying to give, for those who didn't have access at this point in time, was there any way that you went about giving access, I don't know if it was you or Google or whoever, giving access to people who didn't, so they could tell their stories as well if they didn't have access?
Yeah, we didn't actually do that. They had done it previously in a couple of other in-a-day incarnations, where they actually gave out cameras to certain people, but for this it was very much a question of, we just want to throw it out there and let people figure out if they want to do it. But realize, for instance, Priya's story was shot on a camcorder. It was a pre-cell phone camcorder. It was from like 15 years ago or something. She tested off and used. So obviously it's a film and you need something to shoot it, but you don't need much. And we did get submissions from interiors, which really, we're totally off the beaten path. The cars can't get to these places. What I think actually happened was a lot of some amateur cinematographers and camera assistants from the film industry in India, and there's about 15 major film industries in India. I think they took their high-end gear and went back to their villages and shot stuff, because we got stuff of such high quality from interiors where people have not shot before. I think it was themselves who did it, so that was very valuable to us. But we didn't want to impede and in that process and say, oh, we're going to give you a camera to go shoot your day. It was really whoever wanted to participate, which also leads to, I think, a very interesting point, that nobody above in what you and I would call a certain economic class, as a high-end economic class, financially submitted a piece of footage. Nobody. Obviously we know, I think everyone here knows, that there's immeasurable wealth in India as well. The people are living, flying helicopters around. And nobody from that world gave us any footage. So part of this exercise to me was who chose to participate, who had something to say in this manner and wanted to express themselves. That was part of it. And the date, October 10th, was basically a random Saturday where there was no major festival happening. And in India, of course, there's a festival every day, it doesn't matter. There was something happening, and I think there was a major political election in Bihar at the time as well. But they just wanted a regular Saturday. They want a Saturday because some people are off work, so they have time. And we wanted to finish the film by this time. So I meant doing it in October, and at first it was a week earlier, but then there was, I think Ganpati was happening or something. So they just wanted a regular day. But then you see crazy stuff happening. That's very festival oriented anyways.
Other question? Yeah.
Yeah, as I may have missed it, but how long did it take you to sift through all the footage and start constructing the narrative of the story that you were trying to?
January, sorry.
Yeah, I think we viewed footage for about 8 weeks, and I think I had a few little forays into just cutting a few little scenes that we knew from the beginning were possibles to include. And then we went away at Christmas and carried on watching and cutting, and then came back and had I suppose about 10 different scenes together, and we all as a team kind of sat and watched them and discussed where we thought they would go, and then we got this new wealth of material that came, so there was a big kind of push to process all that footage, and I think a lot of that actually changed. I think that was when the farmer story really came in, and it gave us Richie particularly was really keen on how it might kind of draw the film together, and then I think we got to a stage where we just knew we had to start cutting, and we had a lot of discussions, so we knew more or less where we were going with all the stories and what function they might have within the film. We knew that we had to start in the morning and go through to midnight, or at least that's what we wanted, and so there were certain elements would conform to those areas and they wouldn't fit in other parts of the film. So we had a sort of structure that was determined by the time of day, if nothing else. And then I went off and
About 5 weeks ago.
for 5 weeks in my pajamas mostly.
Ideal.
And we were in close contact each day, and I would upload things and different cuts every day or every other day, and we just started at the beginning and worked all the way through, and then I suppose it was a total of about 24 days actual cutting from beginning to end. So in all those months it did narrow down to that short amount of time.
And again, in that time too, I mean, I have a script, an outline, I guess you could call it. It's about a 50-page outline, which more or less conforms to the film you saw in terms of what are the major stories. And when she disappeared for that time, she basically spat out what's very close to what you just saw. That she would take these discussions, go and then come back with stuff, which I thought was so poetic. I mean, I can't. This film was, so much of it was made by this woman, and I think a lot of it benefited from the fact that she's never been to India. She was responding purely to the footage as a viewer, and then I think a lot of discussions we had were about that, in a way of what is this place really about, and I had my own baggage of what I thought it was and what I think it is, and maybe ensuring that certain parts of the country are represented in the footage. But so much of it was what she brought to that.
Can I just go? I think a question follows on from that, which is, and I've not seen the other In a Day thing, so I'm like a beginner here today. But if I was to ask you what's the point of it, I mean, there's so many things going on. There's vignettes of India. I mean, it's a work of art in its own right, and then you have this description. If you go to an art gallery, you see a painting. It's beautiful in its own right, but maybe it's got a message, maybe it hasn't. So, has it got a message? And if it has, what is it? I mean, I mentioned the gentleman over there talked about the narrative. Is it a narrative? Is it a story? Or is it a documentary? Or is it all of the above? Like you said, if you had to sum it up to someone who hadn't seen it, and someone said, what's the purpose of it? What would you answer?
Hypothetically, what would I answer? I would say that this was, as opposed to the other In a Days, if you do ever see them, I think this is a film that has a unifying theme, which the other films don't necessarily have, for better or for worse. I really love the other films. But I think in this exercise, people were responding to this one question we posed to them if they had the option, if they wanted to answer, which is talk about life in evolving India. And people responded in a very emotional way to that idea of progress and of change. And I think what I believe this film is about, you said so many things, but one of the things I think unifies the film is that talking about it's questioning the nature of progress. It's questioning the progress that that country is going in, which to me translates to the progress that humanity is going in. Because India is one of the few countries where people live the same way they've lived for the last 1,000 years, and yet they have gone to Mars. So the fourth country to go to Mars. And so you're measuring our past as people, as a race, and our future in one ecosystem. And so people are taking stock of that. And with that, they're questioning, well, this is the direction we're going. Is it the best for us? Who are we leaving behind? What's so great about this? There are amazing things about it. There are not so amazing things about it. So to have a film that actually is about these thoughts, which are so vast and they're so epic, and I could never have sat down and written a script about these themes. They're too big. And I think the films we know that have tried to tackle this don't necessarily work because it's so big. And it, in a way, kind of, there's a stench of contrivance to that. Whereas with this, you're just watching people respond to this idea. So I feel that this film is about progress for our race. That's what I think.
Did you want to?
So yeah, I really liked. I really liked the way that little girl, in her like repeating, I'll learn karate.
The karate girl.
Yeah, karate girl. Yeah. I loved the way she, as you said earlier, she kind of like in that little section, it kind of like in a really beautiful way talked about violence towards women, and I just wondered how you kind of whether you kind of had to PG the whole thing because it was going to be on YouTube, and whether there were like questions, I mean, I kind of asked Josh just now, but like questions of if some of it, how you kind of like made it for everyone, but because there's a lot of things in India like honor-based violence or rape that you hear about all the time, and obviously you don't want this film to be about the bad sides, but I wondered how much you wanted it to reflect reality. I don't know.
And I think we all felt strongly that it should reflect reality. But the thing is, and this is something I also speak about with some of my filmmaker friends, particularly Indian independent filmmaker friends, that they have been trying to, and we have been trying to address issues through our films, and through their films. And India is a place where any issue you can imagine exists. I mean, any issue you can't imagine exists. It's that vast. And I think that this film is an example that regular, everyday people who would not be classified as professional filmmakers are addressing these issues in more clever and more honest and more genuine ways than we are able to with the funds that we raise and all the resources we put into it and all the effort we put into it and all the ego we put into it. And if people, and this is not just India, this is happening all over the world, how many people in this room would rather watch a really funny cat video than a mediocre film you saw last week? So in that way, if people are addressing these issues better, then the films we make have to be better. They have to be more clever, they have to be more creative, they have to be more subversive, and they have to be more probing. So we didn't water this down. Keeping in mind, people didn't go and shoot incidents of violent crime. But if they're going to talk about it, particularly in this case, I mean, that case of the karate girl, I think we all we were all kind of baffled when we saw it. It was so special. It's so tragic. I mean, you can make a feature film about that clip and all the implications, all the directions it goes off into. So we didn't water anything down. We tried to reflect what it was, and it was given to us in a manner, I think, that was very accessible. India's obviously, for people who've been there, who are from there, who know it, it's a very family and community-oriented environment. So people are publicly speaking about things, even issues. They're going to speak about it in a way that their family can even see it, which I think it's almost like a restriction that works well.
Yeah. We've got time for one final question right at the back.
How many screenings did you have in India, and how did people respond?
One, right?
No, and then we had the cinema release.
Yeah, we had one that our team attended, And then we had it released in the cinemas, actually.
Yeah.
So
What was the response?
it was unbelievable, actually. It was really very, very special. I think people were quite surprised that a film was reflecting the country that they knew. In many cases, they didn't know. I think it's a point of pride that nobody in the world can watch this film without subtitles. I love that idea. And the Indians were surprised at that. Because one thing I find about Indians, at the risk of generalizing, is that anyone who lives there thinks they know the country. But really, they know their experience of that country, which is not even close to what the entire experience is, because it's too big and too vast and too crazy. And the one thing I've learned from this is that I'll never be able to understand the country. So the response was really wonderful. The press really responded well. They were asking the right questions about the film. They really felt deeply about it. I think they were amazed that they themselves were telling themselves these stories. I will say the most special screening I had was showing my grandmother a few days ago in Punjab. She's 94, she does not watch movies. And there was a scene where she even started clapping. It was the Rakna scene, the one who's from Bihar, who talks about how she was educated when her mother made a vow that she would educate her the same way she educated her son. And she literally started clapping. And I've never seen anything like that from this woman, ever. So that was I think it really stirred something in people. I mean, I don't think we could have hoped for anything better in that way. But again, on the one hand, on the surface, the movie is about India, but I think it's such a cliche to say it, but it's about everybody, really. I mean, one thing I love about the Elephant and Rhinoceros Rescue Center is that it's about our relationship with everything. It's about, they have their day too, and they have a right to be represented.
So that's all we've got time for, I'm afraid. But if people do want to tell their friends, when will the film be available online?
Imminently, but we don't know exactly yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly yet. It will be on YouTube, I guess probably within the next several months.
Yeah,
at
several
that point.
months.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.